Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second of our public information sessions on CalMac's new booking and ticketing platform. Many of you on tonight are key user groups and community groups, so it's important that we are talking to you, advising you on the new platform, the best way to operate with the new platform, and what you need to do to help us make sure that the new platform works for you in the fashion that everybody would want it to. We have a presentation this evening, which will be given by two of the senior people within the CalMac team who are behind the new booking and ticketing platform. And those are Robin Scowthorne, who's the program manager, and Mark Stevenson, who is the customer experience lead on the project. As I say, both these guys ingrained in everything to do with the platform, so they will be able to answer your questions after the guys make the presentation in the first section of this evening's session. Now, to get your question, I would ask you to use the chat box function. Give me your name and give me your location, and we will get the questions asked to Mark and Robin as the evening goes on. As I say, it's good to have you on here. Mark and Robin can only answer questions on the new booking and ticketing platform. I appreciate there will be frustrations in some of the other CalMac services at the moment, but Mark and Robin are only here and can only talk to the new ticketing platform. So, as I say, we'll get the questions answered later in the session. We hope to run the session for about an hour. The presentation section will take about 20-25 minutes. And Mark and Robin will be linking up just about as well as the Scotland team did on Tuesday night against Spain. So I'm not sure who is the main striker and who's the support, but we'll start this evening with Robin. Robin, over to you.
Very much, Charlie. And I'd like to extend my welcome to all of you and add my welcome to that Charlie's already given. So thank you for making time, particularly on an evening like this. It's one of the sunniest evenings I think we've had in 2023, and not surprised, but very pleased that so many of you have decided to turn out for this. So thank you very much, appreciate your time. I'm excited to be talking to you today about the e-booking solution. It's been some time coming, and I think some of you are aware that we've had a couple of planned go-live dates that we have not been able to achieve for various reasons. We are now very confident in a go-live date of Tuesday, the 25th of April this year, and that's why we're talking to you at this particular point. So we've got a range of customer communications planned. Mark is going to talk about some of those during this evening. And as I say, very pleased to have reached this particular junction and able to share some more information with you. The project that we've been running within CalMac is called Arcturus. It's, if anyone's unfamiliar, it's Scots Gaelic for Our Journey, and I think it has lived up to that title in many respects. We also chose that title because we knew it was going to involve a huge number of customers, a huge number of our communities, and a very large number of my colleagues, Mark's colleagues here within CalMac. And I'm delighted to say that the team that started out on this we started implementation in January 2021, slightly contrary to some of the reports you might have seen about it starting in 2016. But it's been a couple of years in the making in terms of delivery, and good to be here. The platform that we're replacing, the product that we've been using now for 27 years, is, I think, long overdue for replacement. We need to give something better to our colleagues and also to primarily to our customers. And that platform has served us well, but the time has come to move on to a new one. And there are things that we're moving away from. So things like the distinct separation of ticket sales and booking and reservation functionality, that means it's very difficult to keep an accurate handle on capacity management. And things like our colleagues have to work through 8 separate communication channels to update customers when a change happens, when a disruption happens. We are integrating a lot of that activity, so we're achieving a lot of efficiency there and making life a lot easier for frontline and contact center colleagues. We're very busy getting the whole organization ready for this, and we'll talk a little about some of that. And I think it says on there, the customer experience, that is fundamentally the driving force for this change. It's about giving a better experience for you as a user and making the experience easier when you travel with us. As part of that, we've done an extensive amount of research into what customers are looking for, what customers are expecting, what the modern customer needs of a ferry booking and ticketing software package, and the processes that go with it. And I'm going to hand over to Mark in a second just to talk us through some of the work that's been done there.
Thanks very much, Robin. So yeah, I'm Mark. I'm the customer experience lead on the programme, and as Robin said, the driving force behind the programme has absolutely been the customer experience. One of the first things we did as part of the project was we went out and we gathered a sort of representative group of views, opinions from right across our network. The reason why we done that, we wanted to hear what you, our customers, wanted. We wanted to ensure that customers were at the heart of the project, and it's been driven by our customer needs and requirements. Throughout the last few years, we've been engaging with various ferry committees, ferry user groups, community councils, our community board. There's been a massive amount of forums that we've visited and been to, and that's really helped us to tackle specific challenges as they've come up throughout the implementation. On the left, you'll see we've made reference a few times to the 4,500 customers that we've spoke to throughout the life of the project. And I think one of the key elements of this is the blend that we've had of both digital online research and traditional research as well. So one of the stats that we're really, really proud of is we've been out right at the start of the project, and we surveyed face-to-face just over 800 customers on our turn up and go routes. So these are customers that generally don't have CalMac accounts, they're harder to reach, they don't make bookings. So again, we were really keen that their voice was a key part of the research that we undertook. In terms of what that research told us, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail of that in a second, but some of the things you see on screen, so our mobile booking experience that we have, so we were keen to build that mobile first. We know how much of an important channel that is when making bookings, not just with CalMac, but I think it's in the wider transport industry. That seems to be the way the industry's moving. I've also got on screen our new disruption email. So again, updated, it's much more sort of clean with our fresh new branding. And as Robin touched on, we've got 8 different channels at the moment that we use, 8 different systems that we use to communicate, at times of disruption and at other times to customers. So we're really keen that that's sort of streamlined, consistent, and the message was going out to the right channels at the right time. Also on there, I've got our new ticket design as well. So again, we've freshened that up slightly and tried to simplify it for all our customers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about some of the questions that we asked right at the start of the project to our customers in terms of the experience that they'll be looking for. So this was one of the questions that we had from our survey, and we asked the type of ticket that our customers were looking for. So again, these were customers that travelled with us in the previous 12 months up until doing this survey. They're confirmed customers. And the red bars on the screen there is what our customers told us was their first choice of receiving their ticket. And the grey bar on screen is their second choice as well. So I think we were quite surprised just in terms of the number one being e-ticket followed by print at home, and that being so prevalent. We had a suspicion that the industry was moving in this way, but I think it kind of confirmed that CalMac customers are sort of in line with wider customer expectations across the industry. So so that's been something that's been on our mind. In terms of continuing themes, so I've mentioned the demand for kind of online channels is obviously there, but we were also really keen to retain our existing channels, and our customers have told us that repeatedly, that port offices, vessels, where customers have traditionally bought their ticket, some for many, many years. We didn't want to remove any of that or jeopardise that in any way. So again, when we go live on the 25th of April, them channels will still exist. And I think that's a really important message to get out there. And I think we recognise the role in the community that port offices play, that small vessels in some circumstances play. Other things that our customers continually tell us through Insight, again, are things like concessionary products, blue badge products, the inability to book them online. I think it's a real barrier for a lot of customers. So again, we've been working really hard with some of our partners, including SPT and Transport Scotland, to how we can make that happen and how we can provide that service, whether that's through telephony or our digital channels going forward. Another thing is the pet booking process. So at the moment, it's a sort of different booking flow when you're booking a pet. We recognise that there's some challenges with that process at the moment, and it's something that we've always been keen to streamline and simplify. And then lastly on the screen, I think a lot of customers just expect this these days, but in terms of having that kind of basket functionality, so the ability to book multiple tickets, multiple routes, multiple passengers all at once in one transaction. So hopefully that will be a sort of welcome addition. So in terms of a lot of these findings, again, they were not a surprise to us. I think from going out and speaking to a lot of the forums that we have, these are the things that tend to come up time and time again, and hopefully with this new system we'll be able to address them. But Robin, I'm going to pass over to yourself to talk a little bit about the solution that we arrived with, the supplier that we've partnered with, and a little bit about the sort of wider industry that they work with.
Thanks, Mark. So we have purchased a software solution from an Italian company called Idea. They are based in Naples, and they were subject to a rigorous procurement exercise that was run through late part of 2019 and 2020. And they provide their booking software, e-booking it's called, to a number of other operators internationally. You can see a selection of those on the screen now. And rather than go through all the details of each of those, I think this is really just illustrating that CalMac is actually in good company internationally with a supplier like this. I think you can see that in terms of the number of routes, destinations, ferries, passengers carried per annum, and vehicles carried every year, it gave us confidence that this solution is in use with some very large operators. BC Ferries in particular. BC Ferries serves roughly a 1,500-mile stretch of the British Columbia coastline, and they have been through an exercise to introduce this software, going live with it in 2018. But their passenger carrying statistics are way in excess of ours, so up at almost 18 million passengers carried, but quite similar in terms of route numbers, ferry and destination numbers. And then it's interesting to look at some of the differences between these operators, in that an operator like Caledonian really operates effectively a cruise type service. It's a ferry, it will carry vehicles, it carries freight, but the customer experience is really about the onboard experience, it's dining and it's entertainment and so on. It's quite a distinct beast from CalMac in some respects, but they share some of the same challenges that we do. And in terms of the flexibility that they've been able to exercise through this product, and the unique identity that they have, is something that we think we can preserve CalMac's unique identity through this product too. So while at one level we are standardizing and we're becoming more efficient, we still retain CalMac's character and some of the features that we require to deploy. Idea's e-booking solution is in use in 94 ports around the world. It's used to transport a total of 15 million cars and 40 million customers every year. And we use the insight we got from talking to each of these operators to help inform our own requirements and to piece together the procurement that we undertook. I would say that forging relationships with some of these operators has really helped us throughout the implementation. And I think those are relationships that CalMac will be benefiting from for years to come. It's very, very helpful just to be able to lift the phone to a colleague in another ferry operator and to understand just precisely how they have tackled a particular issue. And as a user group, we will be working with these other operators to help influence the direction that the IDEA product takes over the years ahead. And the IDEA product has a roadmap, so they have a development program that they're undertaking to deliver additional features. There's a timeline of improvement for delivery from IDEA, and we benefit from that along with all these other operators, and we think we will be a key influence on that going forward. So overall, a very positive move for us, and one we're pleased to help shed some light on for you. Hopefully you're not that concerned about that, but it's of great interest to us and been very important to us all on the journey. Perhaps of more direct relevance to you is how we're going to communicate with you as customers over the weeks ahead, and Mark is going to say a little more about that.
Thanks, Robin. So, like I mentioned in the last slide, we were keen to have a sort of on and offline approach to communications, just so that our communications can reach everyone in our communities. So there's a whole list of things that we're doing. Some of you may have seen this coming out already, but we've got leaflets that are going to be available in the ports. We've got posters up already. I think we sent out about 600 in December. We've got local press adverts that are going out, so look out for them over the coming weeks. Email, we're doing emails direct to customers, so if you sign up for marketing with CalMac and you've opted in, we'll be getting in touch with you just with a little bit more information. But we're also doing stuff direct with various forums, so like the community board and various ferry committees. Social media, we've already started with that, so we'll be keeping an eye out for that. Any kind of questions or themes that tend to crop up on social media time and time again, we're making a point at the moment of making sure that they make their way to the main website for everyone as well. So we'll be continuing to develop that. We've got things like web updates. We've got various events we've run over the last period, and as I've mentioned, that engagement will continue. If I can say one thing, as part of kind of communications on this slide, would just be around the URL at the bottom of the screen. So calmac.co.uk/ticketing. And if you're looking for any more information, it's a great place to go. There's some videos on there from Robbie Drummond, the sponsor of the project. There's some FAQs on there. There's a whole section about what's changing for customers. And as I say, we'll be kind of growing and developing that over the coming weeks ahead, in preparation for the 25th of April. And Robin, I'm going to pass back to yourself to talk about what to expect on the day.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, so I suppose my key message here is really that we have you covered, not just for your first journey after launch, but for well beyond that as well. It's not just day one. We want to make sure customers feel comfortable with this and are supported throughout the transition. Some of you will be daily travelers, I've no doubt, and it's particularly important to you to understand what the changes mean for you. In terms of what we're doing for customer support then, so we have trained, or just at the tail end of training, just about 800 of our colleagues. I think we set out to train about 550 in person and 250 through virtual means. That number has risen steadily as we've opted for a summer timetable period go live date. We've had to train an additional number of colleagues who are employed as seasonals and a number of new starts. We will have super user colleagues in each port, so every one of our ports has nominated at least one of its team to act as a super user. Internally, we're calling these people guides, and they've had additional training. Some of those guys have been here in Zurich this week, and they've spent 2 days with the opportunity to work with the equipment, to ask questions, and to sit with teams of trainers. And another set of those guys are up in Oban today doing exactly the same thing. Our customer engagement centre is being fully resourced up for the event and for the few days around the transition to the new system. They will all be based at a single location so that we can manage communication and that sort of thing more effectively. And they will be available through their normal summer working hours. So you can see there 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. during the week and 8 until 8 at weekends. In terms of what we're doing for our colleagues on the ground, we will have a centralized support function, which will include what we're calling a business support team. This is really the team from within the change program that has got the full set of expertise around the new business processes. So we have changed about 160 of our business processes as part of this exercise. These guys are expert on that, and while many of those processes have been trained out, there are always exception cases, there are always unusual situations that can arise, and this is CalMac, so some of those are really interesting. I can see a question popped up a moment ago about livestock, and that's an area that's very interesting. The IT support team will be fully engaged and here with us. Our main supplier, so Adea, will be here on site with us. We'll have a number of its team here, co-located with us here, and other suppliers will be on call. And we've mapped out the rota for working this arrangement around the clock for a number of days. We hope to keep that round the clock working period to a sensible minimum, but if we need to extend it, we will do so. And I think the final point that we're making on the screen there is that this is a significant IT project. There may be some bumps in the road, but we are fully resourced and geared up to provide you with all the necessary support. I had a question recently from, I think it was from the Minister's office. It was phrased something like, this is really just a simple upgrade, so I presume it will go without a hitch. And I have to say, you know, we have done it's hard to overstate the amount of work that's gone into this. We've extensively looked at the capability of our data network across some 50 ports and on 35 different ferries. We have been out testing every single piece of equipment. We've done 880 or thereabouts functional tests of the solution. We've put it through 2 different rounds of performance tests. It's been through 3 cycles of user acceptance testing. It has been very extensively tested. That's not to say we may not come across something that we haven't spotted yet, but such is the scope of the system. It is so broad in terms of its coverage that I've little doubt there will be something, but we'll be here to sort it out, and we'll be here to make sure that any interruption to your travel is kept to an absolute minimum. What I would say, just in wrapping up on this one, is that we would appreciate your cooperation in that, if it's not too cheeky of us to do so. If you can allow a few more minutes and arrive at the port a little bit earlier than you might normally, that would be great. If you can help us on that front, that would be appreciated. And similarly, if you could just give our frontline colleagues a little bit of latitude. They're getting used to what I think will be a much more significant change for them than it will be for you in many respects. And we will try and keep any disruption at all with this to an absolute minimum. Thanks very much. Mark, you're going to talk about what the change means for customers specifically, and around 3 different groups of customers.
Sure. So thanks, Robin. So yeah, there's 3 areas I wanted to go into. What to do if you have an existing booking, what to do if you have an existing account with CalMac, and then a little bit about our turn up and go routes as well. So first of all, those customers that have an existing booking, we will be migrating them across from our current system into the new system. There's going to be well over 100,000 of these, so it's a big exercise for us to do, and we'll be doing that round the clock on the weekends prior to the 25th of April next month. So again, we've done, I think that's 4 dress rehearsals we've done now of testing that process, so we're now really confident that we've kind of got that nailed down in terms of how that's going to work. When your booking is migrated across, what that will do is it will trigger an email that will go to your inbox, and just like I have on the screen at the moment, you'll have a PDF attached to that email. Within that PDF, there's a QR code, and that can be scanned at the port when you arrive for your booking. Worth mentioning, if you don't pick up this email, it doesn't arrive, you don't use email, whatever, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of scenarios out there. don't worry, if you come to the port, we will be able to find your booking. Just speak to our staff at the desk and we'll be able to find that for you. So, so again, hopeful that there will be a number of customers that this will be more convenient. You don't have to print anything, for example. But again, if there's any challenges, then we'll have the team, as Robin mentioned, the full kind of hypercare team as part of the early stages to ensure that sort of smooth transition across. In terms of next steps, if you have a CalMac account, we will be migrating, again, a really large number of CalMac accounts across from our current system into the new e-booking system. One of the things that we won't be doing is passing across passwords for obvious reasons. So you'll need to reset your password. It's pretty standard to do so with any system upgrade. And it's relatively straightforward. So you go onto the CalMac website as you would today, click on your account as you would today. When you type in your on-screen credentials, there'll be a little pop-up box similar to the screenshot I have on screen at the moment. And it will let you know that your password's expired and a new email has been sent to you with a link. So if you click that link, you'll be able to reset your password. You only have to do this once, and that'll be you into your new e-booking CalMac account. Worth mentioning with the new account, there are additional features that you can do with your account that you can't do at the moment, which I would encourage all customers to do because it speeds up your booking process. You do it once and it will remain within your account. So things like adding a favourite route. So if you tend to travel on the same route more often than not, it's worth adding that to your account. It just means it pre-populates the booking for you. There's things like adding travel companions. So especially on routes where we have advanced passage information requirements, you'll just be able to add this once and it'll remember that for you. So again, speeding up the booking process. And then lastly, I know there's a lot of customers that we've spoken to that are very excited about the ability to add your concession card number and your blue badge details. The main concession that will be available on day one is the SPT concession. So it's valid across 22 routes. Later, we do have plans to look at other concessions that are out there. There's things like the paper voucher scheme with CNAS that will remain similar, that how that operates today. Just pop into the port office and we can put that booking through for you. And there's other schemes out there as well, like Young Scott, there's Highland Concession and others as well. So we've started with SPT, and then again the hope is to open up the channels for all concessions longer term. It doesn't mean people need to use this function either. It's important to mention. It just gives you an additional option. It just gives you the option to use them channels should you so wish. And then lastly, turn up and go routes. So again, these are from a transitional perspective. Overall, these routes are slightly less complex because there's no bookings that exist on these routes at the moment. Existing channels will still remain. So when you rock up to a port or a vessel on the 25th of April and beyond, you will meet our same frontline team, through the same channels, and they'll be able to keep you in. One of the changes that's coming is the ability to buy a ticket digitally for these routes. That'll be an open ticket that you buy that will be valid for the full season. So when we open up on the 25th of April, them tickets will be valid until the end of October. So giving customers that sort of flexibility to use throughout the summer. And Blue Badge and SPT concessions will be available on these routes as well. One of the questions that was raised on Monday's forum was just around setting up an account and making these purchases. Can we do so prior to the 25th of April? So you could set up a customer account and we'll migrate that across. That's not a problem. But again, if it was me, I would hold off until the 25th of April, set up a brand new fresh account, and you can go in and make best use of all the new features there and then, including making your purchase as well. So hopefully that's welcome news for everyone in terms of I guess that new capability, that digital capability that's never been there on our turn up and go routes up until this point. Okay, I think that was everything that we had from our presentation for this evening. Charlie, will I pass back to yourself to cover off some of the questions?
Yep, thanks very much, Mark. Thank you, Robin. There are nearly 90 people on the call this evening, so thank you for taking the time to join us. As I say, we would like to answer as many questions as we can. So if you have questions, if you could place them in the chat box, just give me your name and where you're from, and we will get the question asked to the guys. So if we can go with the first question, this is from Fiona Kennedy. Fiona is asking, what happens if you're traveling through the night, you have a puncture and are therefore late for your booking? Are you penalised? Do you lose your booking? And do you lose your money? Mark, I think you might answer that one.
Yeah, so in terms of our sort of terms and conditions that we have with the system today, Fiona, they won't be changing with the introduction of e-booking. They'll remain constant. So the existing T's and C's will remain. In terms of if you were to receive a puncture, what we did ask is that you let us know. So amendments to bookings are free of charge right up until check-in opening. So there is that flexibility there, that if your plans change for whatever reason, no fault of your own, if you let us know, you are able to do that right up until check-in opens. But just to reiterate that terms and conditions won't be affected by e-booking's introduction.
Thank you, Mark. Ken has asked, he says he's from Millport and is away in a motorhome at the moment. When he comes back to Cambrai, he's asking, can he buy a single ticket as he may not be away until next season again?
Yeah, sure. Lucky Ken. That sounds good with this weather. So yeah, in terms of the ticketing arrangements for the Largs to Cambrai route specifically, all we've done since last Saturday when I was across on the island myself actually, we split the ticket into a two-portion ticket, and that's just so that anyone that's paid for the return journey has a ticket that they can present, just so that no one is penalised for that. So if you're coming back prior to the 25th of April, the ticket will work the same way as it always would have in the last few years, although you'll be given 2 bits of paper rather than one to come back with. After the 25th of April, we will have a wider range of products available. So single returns, 10 journey products, albeit they're for cars, not motorhomes initially, but there is a wider range of kind of product available. So hopefully that answers your question, Ken, in terms of if you're coming back prior to the 25th of April, it works the same as it always has. But after the 25th of April, you do have a bit more flexibility there.
Next question is one that Robin referred to during the presentation, and it is, will commercial bookings be managed through e-booking, and how will livestock be booked?
So yes, e-booking will be handling commercial bookings. So customers who have block booking privileges currently, we will be migrating those bookings across from the current system into the new system. And going forward, commercial customers can make bookings in line with their normal practice. And I think the majority of those customers are probably credit account customers, so they can make a purchase through telephone or through the port, where there's a booking required, or can travel, turn up and go, much like any other customer. Commercial bookings not currently available for online purchase. That is something that we will be looking at in a later phase of work. Relative to livestock bookings, I might be looking at Mark here a little bit, I have to admit. Yeah. I know that we have accounted for some of the arrangements that some of you may not be familiar with some of this, but customers transporting livestock can enjoy different pricing according to whether they're carrying a trailer loaded with livestock being taken to market, for example, and then pay I think it's a 0 fee for the return journey if the vehicle is empty. I'm going to stop pretending I know the answer to this one there and hand over to Mark, I think. Yeah, in terms of livestock, Joe, that'll be booked the same way as it has from the 25th of April. As Robin said, that we're hoping to give people additional channels longer term, but it'll be booked through the same channels. We have had a bit of a challenge getting that into the system. You know, when you look at things like headage rules and other things that I'll not go into detail just now about,
Some of the rules can be quite complex and dependent on a wide range of factors, but in terms of that process that is used today, that will be the process on the 25th of April and beyond in the short term. But I think medium to long term, as Robin has mentioned, I think there's an aspiration to look at how we can open up more channels to give people the option.
Slightly wider question from Julie here. When the ferry is cancelled or does not call at a particular island and people can't get back to work, do they get compensation as well as a refund for the ticket or the ferry that did not happen?
Yeah, okay, so it's not particularly connected with the ticketing platform, but where there is a mechanical failure or something that is deemed CalMac's responsibility, I think I'm right in saying that customers are entitled to passenger rights compensation in line with passenger rights law. Where the disruption or the failure for the ferry to call is due to weather, I believe the passenger rights arrangements don't apply. We have done a couple of things with the system to help support the management and administration of passenger rights. So things like vouchers and so on that can be exchanged for onboard refreshment. We are managing some of that through the system, but that's about as far as that goes. Is there anything you want to clarify with that?
I think all I would add is I think Charlie, you mentioned at the top of the call, I don't know if it's today's or Monday's, but we said that every question that's asked as part of this forum we'll publish afterwards and we'll respond in writing, because I think there's quite a lot within that. So we could probably reference the relevant kind of pages on the website that will have all the details of specific scenarios and exactly what's due. I'd hate to give you the wrong answer, Julie, in terms of that particular scenario, but yeah, we can certainly follow that up and make sure that's published on the website.
Okay. Fiona's asking, what happens when you cancel a sailing? Are you automatically put onto the next sailing?
So yeah, so Fiona, this is it's an interesting one in terms of disruption. We've got a new disruption management process. It's fair to say that it is far slicker in the new system than it is in our current system. In our current system, it's incredibly manual. Everything's sort of moved one by one, so it takes a very long length of time for our staff to process. In the new system, it's much more like a sort of drag and drop when we need to make changes quickly. What I would say in terms of what happens, you will receive communication. So the first thing we are keen to do is streamline the communications and get them out in a timely manner. So you would receive, in this instance, a text message straight to mobile, and you would receive an email as well, which we don't offer at the moment. What we will do is we will put you on a sailing that we think is the best fit for you. And again, we'll communicate with you that that's what we've done. But again, if that's not suitable, or you want to change that, then you just need to reach out to us through all the kind of standard channels, and we can do our best to accommodate that.
I think, as we mentioned earlier, this is one of the biggest change management projects ever undertaken at CalMac, and Stephen's question kind of falls into that category where he asks, how confident are you that a one-size-fits-all ticketing system can meet the needs of all the different islands across the network?
Yeah, okay, so I think that's a good question. And I think, running this program, I think it has given me some fantastic exposure to understanding some of those nuances and some of the individual requirements that arise from different island communities and their particular needs and their particular economy. I think some of the conversations we've had with BC Ferries, British Columbia Ferries, have been really interesting on that front, and they have very similar kind of island by island, can I say, character? I don't wish to offend anyone by saying that, but the islands have their own character, and they have their own economic outlook, and some islands are predominantly there to service tourist traffic, or that's the way they work. Others are industrialized, and others are predominantly rural and rely on farming traffic and that sort of thing. So a lot of comparable, if not very similar, kind of characteristics feature in their setup, and they've found the solution has been flexible enough to allow some diversity there, but has also tried to standardize it so that where, it's important to us that when for example, a tourist customer is looking at CalMac, that it's easy for them to understand if it's a bookable route, they behave in one way, they make their booking, they choose the sailing, and where it's a turn up and go route, they behave slightly differently, that they can still pre-purchase, they can buy in advance, they can buy online, so they can load all the tickets that they need for their intended journey, but the specifics of the travel arrangements are kind of preserved. And I think they have been, similar to us, they have been consulting with their communities. I think their push is to try and move communities towards a more bookable model over time. And that's not something we have embarked upon here. We haven't changed any routes from turn up and go travel to bookable. And really that's based on customer feedback. That's not something that most communities are very interested in right now. And that kind of flexibility has been facilitated by the system. So yeah, it's a one size fits all, and we've tried to use it in as standard a fashion as we can. But I think there's enough sophistication in it to provide flexibility for everyone.
Thank you, Robert. Rhoda Grant, who's maybe had a busy day at Parliament today, has come on. Nice to hear from you, Rhoda. Does the new system record unmet need?
Hey, thanks for the question, Rhoda. This is a question that I have become pretty familiar with over the course of the programme. So when we talk about unmet demand, which is a question that we've been asked by a number of island communities over time, we've been asked, can a system really measure customers who maybe don't travel because their preferred sailing was unavailable or something like that. So they were prevented from choosing their preferred date or time of travel or their preferred route. It is, I think, academically, it's a difficult concept to try and measure accurately. What we did in order to try and address this, because it was a concern for our community board, and we formed a working group with members of a kind of subgroup, with members of our community board, and ran, I think, for about a year, a working group to look at the question. So, to try and get underneath the question a little bit and try and help us and them understand what was possible. As a result of that, I think we identified a number of measures that really helped indicate what this unmet demand position might look like. I've sometimes drawn the distinction between something like a Friday night taxi queue in Glasgow, where you can stand there with a clipboard and monitor what that looks like, and you might decide that once there's a queue of 30 people that's been there for 20 minutes, you should grant an additional license or two for taxi operators for that period of time. With ferry booking, and particularly online ferry booking, it's very, very difficult to understand why somebody didn't complete a booking. Now, we can pop up surveys and things like that to ask a customer why they didn't complete a booking. It's not a very reliable means of tracking that data, and I think communities are primarily interested in understanding that number, that position, because ultimately it lends itself to campaigning for the service and for the quality of the service that is particular to their island. So what we've done is, I think, reach what I would say is probably a more mature understanding of the challenge with it. We've developed some additional reporting, and I have to say we're quite excited about what the new system can do in terms of things like monitoring the speed at which a specific sailing sells out, and maybe sells out and then frees up again and then sells out again. We will be able to track much more accurately and by specific vehicle type and by date and time of purchase, that kind of data. And we're looking forward to publishing a report that we're calling a booking curve, which is about the trajectory of booking behaviours. And I think we are on the cusp of being able to do some much more intelligent and informative analysis on that front. And you know, I hope we can really move that conversation forward with this.
Thanks, Robin. Angus Campbell was on Monday's meeting. He's come back again this evening, so he must have enjoyed Monday's session. He is asking if there are bumps in the road, can you confirm that services will still run?
We're not intending that any service is disrupted as a result of this. That is first and foremost priority for us, as you would expect, and customer and operational service, lifeline service comes first.
Alison, who's on call, is asking, can you confirm what training has or is being provided to remote port offices like theirs? Obviously, they're keen to know that when they go, that people will be able to help them with the system.
Oh yeah, so for the Isle of Coll, I am struggling to remember whether we have actually delivered training on site or whether we have brought our colleagues from Coll to a location for face-to-face training. I can answer that question for you, though. I can go away and check that. But we will have delivered face-to-face training to, I think, around about 550 people by the time we're finished. We are just at the closing stages of that now. And we're doing top-up training through various means with colleagues right across the network. It's important to us that have on-site training remotely, apparently. So that's what I've been told there by Fiona. Thank you, Fiona. Yeah, all our colleagues will have had the requisite training by the time we go live, and will be supported through the go live and beyond as well.
Okay, thank you. Julie is asking, how will customers be advised about sailing changes or cancellations? Is that you, Mark?
Yeah, so I think I kind of covered that off, Julie, with I think the question above, just in terms of if there is any change to your booking that affects your booking at all. We're using a sort of multi-channel approach, so you will be sent a text message to let you know. You'll also be sent an email, which is a new channel for us, and hopefully that will be done much faster than today and much more sort of consistent than today as well. I think Robin mentioned at the top of the call the challenges with having 8 different systems at the moment trying to communicate disruption through. So I think having that streamlined and automated should help with the speed and the accuracy of that.
Thank you. Jennifer Rodriguez from Colette Vacations is asking, how are travel trade group bookings impacted by the new system in terms of booking and confirming our group travel plans?
Thanks, Charlie. So yeah, we'll publish more information about this on the website, Jennifer. But in terms of the 25th of April, the bookings will be made the same way they are today through our travel trade team. They will be put into e-booking, but again, that will not be self-serve for day one. But similar to Robin's comment about wider sort of B2B customers that we have, I know there's an aspiration, especially from the travel trade industry, to self-serve. So it is something that is important, having that channel, but it won't be there for day one. But as I say, once we've moved to the platform, I think that's a sort of future enhancement that I know there's definitely appetite for, because I know especially for our travel trade operators that are overseas, for example, you know, when they want to make a booking might be, you know, when we're asleep, vice versa. So I think it's important that we recognise that, and I think we do. But in terms of the booking migration, so from a travel trade perspective, I'd assume most of the bookings are probably already in our current system for this summer ahead. So like I mentioned, they'll be migrated across to the new system. So that'll still remain.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, will electronic tickets only be PDFs in an email, or will they be stored on a CalMac app or in an electronic wallet of some kind?
Yeah, so I can take this one. So again, it's just all about giving customers that choice, to be honest. So they will be in a PDF attached to an email. You can also access that through your CalMac account. So you can do that on any device. So if, for example, if you're on your mobile phone and log into your account, your ticket will be in there as well. It's the same QR code that's in the PDF, so you've got the choice about which one that you want to use. There's a separate project in CalMac at the moment that's looking at our website and app overall. So I think there's plans to upgrade our app later this year. So again, we would expect that the sort of booking and ticketing element is going to form a key part of that, not just this year, but as we move forward. But it's a good question, so thank you.
Thank you. Elaine has asked, is there a limit on the number of tickets available on turn up and go ferries? How do you ensure that there is sufficient capacity?
Yeah, do you want me to take that one? So in terms of a limit, no, to be honest. In terms of the premise for them routes is that they are turn up and go. It's first come, first served, and our contract dictates that. So no, Elaine, I think it's, if we wanted to start ensuring that there was sufficient capacity on turn up and go routes, then you would be edging more towards a bookable model that we would be going out and doing sort of consultation about. It's not something that we would just change. So it is a good question. There is the risk that we sell too many of these, and then there's a bit of a squeeze. But I think the way our timetable runs, we start to see a sort of peak in the summer, and then it starts to tail off towards the end of our what we call our summer timetable that runs until late October. So hope that wouldn't be the case. But I've been at quite a few forums over the last few years where it's quite interesting from one island where you've got completely different views on whether the route should be bookable or turn up and go or part bookable. So I know there's lots of different views out there. It's quite a contentious subject, but yeah, the turn up and go routes are first come, first served by their very nature.
Okay. Chris from Benbecula has a question about CNES ferry concession vouchers. Will they be recognised online? Sounds like no advantage to booking from 25th of April with Blue Badge online if you still have to either phone or go to your local office.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I'm really jealous. I love Benbecula. It's a lovely place. Yeah, so in terms of CNES vouchers, we would love to make it digital, and I think it can't come quick enough for us. I know there's demand out there. Chris isn't alone in this, but we need to stick to the sort of paper format that CNES Council issue to begin with. Once the system's in, we'll be looking at how we make that digital. I do recognise that that's a particular constraint, Chris, but I think my hope is that with other concessions and like the Blue Badge product, for example, there will be some customers that will get the benefit of having that booking online. And I think for a lot of people going to and from the likes of Benbecula, the fact you don't need to print your ticket anymore, I think will be a huge win. I think the fact it will be available digitally is going to be a big bonus. But I do appreciate that that's a bit of a gap. What we can do as well, I think I mentioned already as part of these questions, that we'll publish these on the website, Chris, and we'll follow up with a sort of fuller answer just in terms of what we need to do to kind of make that happen. There's no timeline at the moment, but I know we'll be engaging with CNES shortly after we go live as to how best to make that happen.
Yeah, it's probably just worth reiterating that we will have, although we're probably not going to have time to, with only 7 minutes left, to answer all the questions tonight. We will be answering the questions online and available on the website after the events. Sebastian has asked, could you also add a meal plan online too?
Thanks, Sebastian. Yeah, so in terms of a meal plan, I think if you're talking about adding a breakfast on or a lunch or a dinner, we've certainly seen that with other IDEA customers, with the likes of Colourline do that especially well. Maybe check out their website. But there's no plans to do that on the 25th of April. But again, after the sort of first phase of the project, that is things that we could do to enhance the sort of customer offering, but not for day one. I'm trying to keep it simple, and then I think it is definitely features that we'll be looking to use longer term. We know there's demand out there for that as well.
There's a lot of animal lovers out there, obviously. Will there be a limit on dog bookings for each sailing? And will a dog booking be required if the dog stays on the car deck in a car?
So Yes, on bookable services, pet tickets will be sold, and we are controlling inventory there. So that falls into two categories. One is called pet in lounge. So there will be an upper limit on the number of pets that we can accept into the lounge area, the passenger area. And the other is pets that can remain in vehicles where it's appropriate to do so. Both of those can be limited, although effectively I think pet in vehicle numbers will be effectively unlimited, because as long as their owners are comfortable, then as long as the pets themselves are comfortable and the owners are happy, there's no realistic limit on that. But in terms of pets in lounge, we are limiting that for the purposes of protecting passenger comfort generally, and avoiding some of it's been a source of fairly frequent complaint where a lounge has been somewhat overcrowded with dogs in particular. But I know there are many opinions on this particular topic, but we're trying to do our best for passengers and for our dog-loving passengers who travel with a pet remains free of charge. You will need a ticket for your pet. On turn up and go routes, you can simply buy a pet ticket at the port of departure.
Thanks, Robin. Finn has asked, can your final destination be included in the booking? For example, in times of disruption, residents of Iona are sometimes offered later or earlier ferries that they can't make, and the connections to or from Iona, but as part of the Iona part is the most part non-bookable.
Yeah, so in terms of disruption, yeah, we'll always aspire to ensure that customers get to their end destination. I'm trying to understand the bit about Iona here, Charlie, just in terms of the ticket availability, so that for that particular service, it will be an open ticket that will be valid for the full season. So you will have flexibility. If you can't make the earlier ferry, you can go for a later one, Finn. But yeah, that's maybe one we can follow up on.
Alison Jones has asked, can she amend her booking online, for example, if she wants to change the vehicle or if she wants to add a bike rack, etc.?
Yeah, thanks, Alison. Yeah, this is very much part of the offering. So you can log into your new CalMac account and go through and amend your booking. So whether that's adding product, removing products, changing a vehicle, as you mentioned there, or adding a bike rack, and you can do that free of charge right up until check-in opens.
Thank you. Time is running away from us, so we've got one more question we could maybe answer tonight. Just as I say, if we will answer all the questions, if you want to or come up with a question after tonight, if you send them into calmac@3x1.com, we will also ensure that they are answered as well. So we'll give the final question to Caroline Mull, who's asking, when travelling with passengers who prefer to board on foot due to mobility issues, we currently give them their printed tickets to board and we take the car on. How will this work with the new ticketing system?
Sure.
Yeah, so thanks, Carol. It's a good question to finish with. So yeah, I recognise that this is there's a need for this with customers at the moment. We see it right across every route, to be honest. In terms of the sort of splitting out of individual tickets, the new system can accommodate that. So if you make a booking and there's quite a few people on it, quite a few vehicles on it, if everyone's there and arrives at the port, you can scan the one QR code and it checks everyone in and they can board. So we're hoping that that's going to be a really slick, quick process. But in Carol's example, if you've got folk within your party that want to maybe board separately to yourself, there's also an individual QR code for that individual person. So if they're wanting to board to a separate mechanism, we would just scan the QR that's most relevant to them. So in answer to your question, Carol, yes, absolutely, that will be available with the new system.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, everybody, for taking part in this session tonight. Hope you found it informative And as I say, we will answer all the questions that we didn't get to tonight online and in the CalMac website. So look out for them there. Thank you again for joining us tonight, and good night.
Everyone.
Thank you very much. See you soon.